You know, I've got to say, I just heard the comments from my friend from Connecticut, and it's almost like we're living in parallel worlds. To say we're not getting anything significant from our allies just rewrites history. I had the great joy of being at the White House last week for an historic peace deal, where for the first time in 3 decades, an Arab country normalized relationships with Israel. The UAE did so, and within a matter of weeks thereafter, Bahrain did so. Both of those were major diplomatic advances. They hadn't happened for decades, and the Saudis, whom the senator from Connecticut just cast aspersions at them, played a major role in brokering Middle East peace, including, for the first time, as allowing Israeli planes to overfly Saudi airspace. So I understand that we're 41 days out from an election, and so everything has to be bad in foreign policy if your opponent is the incumbent. But I do think this committee deserves some acknowledgement and recognition of the historic events that are playing out right now, events that have made our allies safer, events that have made the Middle East safer, and events that have made America safer. Mr. Abrams, you're a longtime expert on the region. What are your thoughts on the historic peace deal that was just brokered by the President?
I'm reminded, Senator, of the many people who said that this could not happen without an Israeli-Palestinian peace agreement. But the administration thought that it would work in the other direction, that the first thing to try to do was to normalize relations between Israel and a number of Arab states, and then that might have an influence on Palestinian conduct, and proved to be correct.
Well, and I'll tell you, it really proved right some conversations we had in 2017, in the first year of the Trump administration. As you know, there were vigorous debates within the administration on a number of foreign policy questions. One question was whether or not to move our embassy in Israel to Jerusalem. The department where you work today, the State Department, opposed moving the embassy. The Defense Department opposed moving the embassy. I engaged vigorously in those debates directly with the President. The argument that State and Defense made, and the argument that some in the White House made, is that moving the embassy to Jerusalem would enrage the enemies of Israel, it would enrage the enemies of America, and it would make peace in the Middle East harder to achieve. In my view, that was precisely backwards. That the reason peace has been so difficult to achieve, in part, has been the consistent ambiguity of U.S. policy, the wringing of hands, where the enemies of America and the enemies of Israel did not know where we stand. And what I urge the President is moving the embassy will be heard crystal clear across the globe by America's friends and by America's enemies, that America stands resolutely and unshakably alongside our friend, the State of Israel. I was there in Jerusalem the day the embassy opened, a time of celebration and dancing in the streets. And I do not believe it was coincidental that within a week of the embassy opening, the administration announced what I think is the single most important foreign policy decision of the last 4 years, which is withdrawing from the catastrophic Obama-Iran nuclear deal. Both of those together, in my judgment, were the essential preconditions for the historic peace deal that rolled out within the last couple of weeks. That clarity, I can tell you in the last couple of weeks, I've had conversations directly with the ambassador from the UAE and the ambassador from Saudi Arabia. Both of them told me, said, the reason we are cutting this deal is because we want to be friends with America. We want to be closer friends with you, and we know you care that we make nice with Israel, so we're willing to do that because we want a closer friendship and alliance with the United States. I think that is an incredible victory for clarity in foreign policy and is something worth learning from, celebrating, and emulating going forward. Thank you.